everyone, it's Mari here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be creating with one of the awesome stencil and die combos from Honeybee. This is a really cool product, and it's one of the things that I love so much about Honeybee is they always have these really cool innovative ideas. I'm going to be using the Happy Haunting stencil set. This is a 6 stencil set, and I'm also going to be using the coordinating die and the Sweet Halloween sentiments and coordinating dies. I'm starting off here with a piece of paper that's cut slightly smaller than 6 by 6. I'm working on my Altenew grip mat, and I'm using some Distress Oxide ink in black soot to just go ahead and blend some black color onto my white paper. I've switched up my colors of ink now to Lost Shadow, and I'm adding a little bit of a shadow around the edges of these really adorable little ghosts. Now, there is a coordinating die for these ghost images, which is very cool, and that coordinating die will capture that Lost Shadow ink so that my little ghosts will have this really sweet little shadow. So I'm just finishing up the gray, and now I'm going in with some carved pumpkin Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to just add some stars, some of these little stars in the orange. This is just going to add that really pretty little filler detail, which I love. That's part of these really cool stencils. So you can just see I'm going in with one of my Honeybee detail brushes here. Honeybee has actually a lot of really cool blending brushes in their shop. You'll see a little bit later in the video where I'm going to use the fine detail brushes as well. So I'll make sure to point that out when we get to that point in the video, which is now. I'm using one of those fine detail brushes for the Villainous potion. And again, adding some of these little filler areas in the stars, as well as some of the little clouds in the Villainous potion as well. So these are little clouds that are going to be around a variety of little moons that are on the stencil background, which is very cool. Now I'm coming in with my Picket Fence paper pouncer, and I'm going to add some of the carved pumpkin over top of the black pumpkin faces. You'll notice that the black soot is so dominant that covering it with the carved pumpkin doesn't really change the black in any way, which I love. And again, going in with one of the fine detail blending brushes and adding the little stars into the background, and adding some more of the Villainous potion detail here and there as well with my fine detail brush. Again, I love all of these little fine detail background elements, the bats, the little stars, and so on. Love them so much. I think this is just a really well thought out and very, very cool stencil. Now again, just finishing up with my paper pouncer here, some more of the carved pumpkin areas, and you'll notice that there's also little candy corn filler pieces as well, which is so cool. And I'm just going to finish up any of those different little carved pumpkin areas, including the little dots on the candies, and just so sweet. Now there we have the hat band in the Villainous potion, and now I'm just going to show you how these coordinating dies work so well to cut out these little elements. Now you would not have to do this, obviously. You do not have to use the coordinating dies, but I love that that's an option, and it just levels up and just takes this stencil set to another level. It just elevates it that little wee bit. So now I'm just going to take one of the Sweet Stack rectangle dies, and I'm just finding an area that I want to spotlight from this stenciled background. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that sorted out. I'll put that onto my die cutting mat here and run that through my die cutter. And once I'm finished with that, I'll have just this really cool panel for my card front. So now that I've got that die cut, you can see how this looks. Some of the elements have not been cut out, and then some of them are cut out. So that what I plan to do here is create a little bit of a pop-up effect. So I'm going to take this panel and adhere it to a white panel that's exactly the same size. So I use that same rectangle die to die cut out a piece of white cardstock that's going to back this piece here. I'm just going to use my honeybee glue to adhere those two pieces together. And then what I'll do is add that onto a little bit later onto my card base. So what I'm going to do here is take these die cut pieces that I've die cut out previously and add those back into the cutout areas. And I'm going to do that with a little bit of foam adhesive so that all of these different elements pop up off of the background. So it just adds that little bit of extra dimension. I'm just going to trim off the excess where these pieces are hanging off the edge and get those trimmed off, and we'll have that really cool card front for our card base, which I love. I think this is just a really neat way to create some really fun background elements for a project. So loving that. And of course, you can also use these die cut pieces as embellishments for a card. You can use this in so many different ways. It's a very, very versatile stencil and coordinating die set. Now, the stencil set does also come with this really cool background stencil, which I feel like is a huge bonus in this stencil set. So I took some Salvaged Patina Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to go ahead and blend that onto my card base. So this is just the front of my A2 top folding white card base. I'm going to go light and heavy so that I've got a little bit of variation and contrast, but you really don't see that much of this background. It's just going to be kind of poking out around the edges, but I love that the stencil just creates a really cool, interesting background. Now I'm going to trim out a little bit of black cardstock here that's going to just serve as a mat, and that I feel like is just going to frame in this really adorable card front. So I'm just using my pencil to help me measure off where I need to trim this black cardstock. Once I have that all trimmed off with my trimmer, I'm going to go ahead and add my card front onto that black mat. And like I said, it's just going to provide this really nice finished black edge that is just going to really draw your eye to the actual star of the show, which is this gorgeous card front that we created with that stencil and the coordinating dies. So really like how that turns out. And then of course I'm going to add that onto my card base. I'm going to drop it first. And now I'll just get that adhered on so that we have just this really nicely finished card front. So I really love how that looks. I think it's really, really super sweet. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of Sheer Shimmer Spritz. Any kind of a sheer clear spritz would work for this. I'm just going to spray that over my whole card front, and that's going to give it a little bit of sparkle and shine, which I love. I think that's just really fun. A little bit of extra detail. And now I'm just going to take a little bit of twine. I've wrapped that around my card a few times, and I'm just going to tie that into a little bow over to the left. And I love that little pop of black and white twine. I think it looks really cute. I'll just use my tweezers to hold that knot in place while I go ahead and tie the bow, and I'll just finish this off. I think this might be doodlebug twine, although I'm not sure. I have a lot of twine in my stash. I'm not really 100% sure. It is not lawn fawn because it's not as stiff as a lawn fawn twine. It's really soft and it's really, really easy to tie. So I'm just going to finish up my bows and make sure they're kind of an equal size there, and I'll trim that twine off a little bit later. Now, of course, this is the sentiment set, which is called Sweet Halloween. This is a sentiment set that has a coordinating die, of course, in true honeybee style. And I love the sentiments here. They're just really, really sweet for lots of different occasions around the season. And I chose Happy Halloween, which I've stamped out in black. Of course, I'm going to use that coordinating die once I get this stamp all cleaned up. Looks like my Misty needs a spa day. It's getting a little bit dirty. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and use my die cutting machine to trim out this sentiment, which is just going to fit perfectly onto the front of my card. I'm going to just put a little bit of foam adhesive onto the back of that and just put it above the twine so that we can still see the twine, but still have a good shot of the sentiment. And of course, you can see here that we can still see all of the different elements that are part of that background there. Really, really super sweet and adorable. Now I'm going to take just a little bit of purple stickles and add a few little dots of sparkle here and there, including on the hat band and pretty much anywhere where there's purple on this background, I'm going to add just a few little dots of that really pretty sparkly stickles. I also wanted to add a little bit of white highlight here and there with my white gel pen. I'm going to add some to the hat and some to each of the different eyes of the different elements here, so the pumpkins and the ghosts, and give the eyes just a little bit of a highlight just to bring them alive a little bit. Actually, I think it makes them look even more spooky when they've got that little highlight in the eyes. And so I'll just finish those areas off with my white gel pen, and once those elements are all dry, the card is going to be finished. Friends, that is going to finish off my project today. I hope that you enjoyed watching my process. I had so much fun creating this. I love the stencils with the coordinating dies. They are so versatile. It does just elevate a stencil a little bit. It gives it just that much more detail or that many more options. Check out the links in the description box below for all of the products that I've used today. Thank you so much for joining me today, friends. I really appreciate it. And I will see you again back here on the Honeybee channel very soon. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.